Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping is still more than a year away from being in theaters, and the book itself has only been out for 21 days. But never fear, because we already have some rumors about who is going to be cast in the movie, so I just had to discuss them. Now, I will say the first rumor I ever saw about this was when it was first announced that both this book and this movie would be coming out, and that was going to be Mike Faust. From Panic, West Side Story, Challengers, just a man that I love, and no one really knew who he was going to be playing, but the general consensus is that he would probably be playing a young Haymitch. Now, if you haven't heard what Sunrise on the Reaping is about specifically, it is the latest prequel book in the Hunger Games series by Suzanne Collins, and it focuses specifically on Haymitch's game, who is the mentor for Katniss in the original trilogy that we know. He is a victor also from District 12, but the thing about his games is that he was part of a quarter quell, which we know from Katniss's games a quarter quell is something where a little something extra is added to the games to make sure that the districts really know how much the capital hates them. So in Katniss's, it's that they bring back victors who had previously won, even though the whole thing is that you're supposed to be, if you've won, that's your reward, is that you can never be put in the Hunger Games again. The original quarter quell was that people in the districts had to vote for the people that were going to be in. There's actually like a specific saying for all of them. Let me find them because it's very, like, the reasoning for each of them is very, like, sad. On the 25th anniversary, so this is the first quarter quell, as a reminder to the rebels that their children were dying because of their choice to initiate violence, every district was made to hold an election and vote on the tributes who would represent. On the 75th anniversary, which is Katniss's second games, is a reminder to the rebels that even the strongest among them cannot overcome the power of the capital. The male and female tributes will be reaped from their existing pool of victors, and Sunrise on the Reaping, which is Haymitch's game, is the 50th anniversary of the games, and for that quarter quell on the 50th anniversary, as a reminder that 2 rebels died for each capital citizen, every district was required to send twice as many tributes, 2 female and 2 male. In this doubling of reparations, we remember that true strength lies not in numbers, but in righteousness. So this is Haymitch's games. He sent where he is doubled up with not only one other person from District 12, but now 3 other people. And I haven't read the entire book yet, but just know it's tragic and sad if you know anything about Haymitch's story. So we are getting this turned into a movie, and it's going to be by Francis Lawrence, who has directed every single Hunger Games movie after the original one, and I really, really like his take on them. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which came out in 2023, was phenomenal. Like, I sobbed my eyes out, I'll be honest, and I think Tom Blythe and Rachel Zegler were perfect castings as Cornelia Snow and Lucy Greybeard, respectively. This is going to be an interesting one, though, because now we are getting our 3rd iteration of Snow. I don't think there's oftentimes characters that you get to see at different stages in their life and see them portrayed by different characters. But, I mean, obviously, Donald Sutherland was so good and scary as Snow, and Tom Blythe had such big shoes to fill as a younger version of him, and I think he did that phenomenally. So it'll be a lot of pressure on who's ever going to be Snow in this one, because you've got big shoes to fill, like I said. So casting wise, like I mentioned earlier, the only one that I ever really heard about was Mike Faust, which I was excited for because I love him. I think he's so cute and he's such a good actor, and he really did have like a Haymitch look to me in a way, if that makes any sense. And I also really like the connection of him and Rachel Zegler were in West Side Story together and are still like good friends to this day. So I thought that just would be cute if like he's Haymitch and she also played a District 12 victor. Like, I just love that connection. He's not mentioned in any of these, though, so I think I have to let go of that pipe dream, but let's look at who is. I'm gonna go in descending order from, like, most main character. I was gonna say most important character, but that's kind of a little rude. They're all important, so let's look at them. First up, we have Kieran Culkin as Caesar Flickerman. I think this would be a stellar casting if true. I think he is truly an entertainer. Like, Kieran Culkin, I feel like you don't see oftentimes people who can just work a room like he can. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, all you have to do is watch any of his recent acceptance speeches at the Oscars, the Golden Globes, even the Emmys way back, because he just knows how to work a room and be this kind of very self-deprecating, funny, but also entertaining guy, like I said, and I think he would be perfect for Caesar. Obviously, Stanley Tucci played him in the Hunger Games original trilogy. phenomenal casting, so big shoes to fill. All of these are gonna kind of be big shoes to fill. We had a relative of his in the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, who I thought was also really funny. I just think this is like a duh. Like, when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, why didn't I think of that? Because literally it's just perfect. I think he has the presence, the persona, and the acting chops to pull it all off. And out of any of the rumors, if I was only going to be able to pick one to be true, I think this would be the one, because I just think it's so perfect. And again, such an obvious, like, why didn't we think of this? Why didn't anyone else put this out there? And I really hope that this one comes to fruition. Next up, we have Jesse Plemons as, bear with me when I say this because I haven't heard it nor said it in a while, Plutarch Heavensbee, who was played in the original trilogy by the late Philip Seymour Hoffman. Plutarch is, when we meet him in Catching Fire, the new head game maker who to replace Seneca Crane after he got, you know? So he starts off as what you think is a villain. You think he's just part of the Capitol, the new sick and twisted one that's making this game design, but he's actually working for the rebels in secret and becomes a very important part of the rebels' plan, and also a very important person to Katniss, I believe. So I'm excited to see this. Jesse Plemons, gonna be honest with you, I actually have not seen anything that he's in. Just some quick things real quick. Kinds of Kindness, Civil War, Game Night, love that movie, I actually have seen that. Jungle Cruise, Battleship, oh, maybe we won't mention that one. Killers of the Flower Moon, like Mike in 22. Good for you, Jesse Plemons. And he's also married to Kristen Dunst, who I love, and I just think they're a really cute couple, even though we're not being parasocial with couples in 2025, okay? So I think this one could actually be really good as well. I, again, apparently have seen him in Jungle Cruise and in Game Night, even though I didn't remember that that was him, but he's a really good actor. I think he's been nominated for stuff before. I wouldn't be surprised. Oh yeah, he's been nominated for a Golden Globe Award, Cannes Film Festival, Screen Actors Guild Award. Like, he is amazing. Academy Award. So I think this is, again, another big role to fill, because the actor who played him that we know of in the movies has since passed, and I think that's always hard when you don't really have the blessing of the person that played them, even if, like, again, you're playing them in a different context, because he's obviously much younger in this version. But I just think it'll be really exciting to see him, and again, see maybe a different version of him than when we meet with Katniss. I think it's also going to be helpful that these characters aren't who they are when we meet them in the original trilogy. It's them getting on the way to there. So I love him. I think he's a really great actor, and I love the trend of continuing with getting, like, really good actors, like award-winning, award-nominated actors, and I'm excited to see what he does in that role. Now, one that I'm not quite so excited for, I actually have to admit, is President Snow himself. So the rumored casting for this is Ralph Fiennes, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because he played Lord Voldemort in the Harry Potter movies. I personally just don't really like anymore. I kind of did when I was younger, but not anymore, when, like, you have an iconic character and then they play another iconic character, especially with something so similar, and that these both being, like, YA kids geared books. Like, obviously everyone reads them and enjoys them, but I just think that similarity is always going to be there, and I think he's so iconic as Voldemort, and a lot of people who are interested in this, like, we've still grown up with him as Lord Voldemort, so that's kind of like an iconic role for him in our mind, and it's hard to see him as anything else or hear him as anything else. And for this to be such another defining role, with President Snow really has to be, if not the main character in this, like, an important character still. I kind of think sometimes it's better to have not necessarily a no-name person, because obviously, like, Donald Sutherland was pretty big, but just someone who is more of a chameleon and doesn't have, like, a huge role attached to them. I do really like him as an actor. I think he's really, really funny, actually. He was in The Menu. Recently, he was in Conclave. Like, there's so many things, and he's obviously such a great actor that, like, the movie wouldn't suffer from this. I just think it would take me out of it a little bit and being like, oh, I'm watching Ralph Fiennes, you know? I don't know. It's like there's something about being able to watch, like, Daniel Craig as James Bond, but then also as Benoit Blanc, because I feel like he's not like the James Bond, right? He's good, but he's not like Roger Moore or like Pierce Brosnan, if someone I immediately think of James Bond when I hear them. But I just feel like he's too tied up with the idea of Voldemort, and it's too recent after he was in a big film series to now be another villain in a big film series that's based on YA books, to not just have that comparison in your mind and be like, well, this is what he did when he was Lord Voldemort, and this is what he's doing with Snow. And I think just because it's such a big role and an important role, I would like to see someone that didn't have such a similarity, like I said, to that of already playing like a big villain in a YA kids based kind of thing. So I don't know how, I don't like that one. I was gonna say I don't know how I feel about it. I don't like it. I'm gonna be honest. Do I think it's gonna be bad? No, I'm sure he'll do a great job if he gets cast, but it's just not anything that I'm like, woo, like the other two castings. So I'm a little disappointed with that. We'll see if that one comes to fruition. If there's one that I have to be like, you know what, I hope this doesn't come true, this is the one. Lastly, and probably most importantly, we have Haymitch ourselves. This is the one that, again, I thought Mike was going to be playing. So when I opened up these casting rumors and was like scrolling through all them, and I was like, can't wait to see Mike. And then you're scrolling more and you're like, oh, that's not my boy, that's someone else. So Charlie Plummer, I think is how you say his last name, is who is being rumored to play 16-year-old Haymitch in the 50th Hunger Games from District 12. He actually has a little background in YA movie adaptations though, because he was in Looking for Alaska, he was in Spontaneous, he's in a lot of stuff of like, I feel like he's one of those actors who like is going somewhere. So I feel like this could definitely be a big, huge break or like a defining role for him in the way Katniss was for Jennifer Lawrence. And I do think he does give off Haymitch vibes. Again, I don't know how to describe if you give off Haymitch vibes or not. It's just something you do. I'm sorry, I can't explain it. So like, I'm not upset by this casting at all. I think he looks really, really cool, and I think he'll do a really good job with it based on his previous material. So I'm excited to see that. The only other casting that I saw, but she's not listed with any of the other ones, is Emma Thompson might be cast as Drusilla, who is an escort from the Capitol and had been going to District 12 to carry out the reaping. So she's basically Effie Trinket before there was an Effie Trinket. She's portrayed in the novel as detached and an unsympathetic character, frequently clashing with other characters. So this is the one I'm not quite as sure, because it's not listed with everything else, like I said, that she might be in it. I also love Emma Thompson. I think before I like get on my horse about like, I think this is great, let me just make sure she's actually not in Harry Potter. Oh no, she's in Harry Potter. She plays Sybil. Can we please leave the Harry Potter people out of my Hunger Games movies? But I love Emma Thompson, so that's kind of okay. And I feel like she's gonna look, I don't know, is it mean to say she's gonna look so different than Sybil, and then someone's gonna be like, you think he's gonna look like Lord Voldemort? He's got a nose, Miranda. And I'm gonna be like, okay, I get it. But I don't know, something about that doesn't upset me. Maybe because like it's not like this role that I've known for so long. Like Snow has been there for so long that it's like it's hard to picture someone who in my mind has always been Voldemort as him, whereas like this is like not as big of, like I don't know who this is, so like it hasn't been as big of a problem to be like, oh, now it's her. But like I said, I don't know how true that one is, because that's the only one not listed with all the other ones. Everyone else though, aside from my boy Rafe, I think sounds really, really good. I think I'm most excited for Kieran Culkin as Caesar Flickerman. Like I said, I think he's just gonna absolutely eat that role up and like just be so, so good in it. I think Jesse Plemons will be very interesting, and I think he definitely, like when I picture what I've like seen him, like clips from stuff, I think he carries himself in a very similar way to how the actor who played him in the original movies does, so I'm excited for that. Charlie Plummer I think is going to be really, really good, and it's also just exciting to see another like young actor kind of like Rachel Zegler, like Tom Blythe, who again, they already had stuff going on, so I don't want to be like, this movie made them who they are, because they had stuff going on, but just kind of discover them for myself for the first time and see them kind of step into these Hunger Games roles, and I think it's going to be really, really fun. Filming is going to start soon, I think like June or July, so casting news should be coming out relatively soon. Obviously with rumors, you never know if it's going to be true, and a lot of times in Hollywood, like they'll put out a rumor of like, to kind of gauge interest in someone, like if they put out a rumor of like, oh, this person is maybe auditioning for Superman, and then everyone's like, what, we hate that, they're like, actually you're not going to be Superman anymore. So this could kind of be like testing the waters, you know, because nothing gets leaked without someone wanting to leak it. So this could be testing the waters of how people react. And I feel like I'm most interested to see how people react to Ralph Fiennes, because I feel like that could be a divide. If some people could be like, yes, he already has the background, he's been a villain before, awesome, perfect. And then other people like me could be like, no, he's already been a villain before, like he doesn't need another iconic role and it's too hard to separate him from those. So we'll see. But I'm excited. I think this is making me even more excited for the movie than I originally was. The only thing that could make me more excited is if Mike somehow came back in this, but I think that's a pipe dream that I need to let go, and I understand that, and I'm processing that, and I respect your privacy and your understanding at this time for that. So yeah, let me know what you think of the casting rumors. Like I said down below, they are just rumors, but I think I mean, even they're good, you know? Like, even the one that I don't love, like, that's a phenomenal actor to get him for the Hunger Games. So I'm really, really excited to see more of this and, like, get confirmation who's playing everyone and just be excited for the movie coming out next year. It's when Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out. It was the same year that, like, the Percy Jackson show was coming out, the season 1, and it was literally, like, falling back into, like, 2012, like, that kind of period in my life where I just didn't think, like, we'd ever be, like, going to opening day a Hunger Games movie again. So now getting this again and getting it in hands that I think we know and have shown that they handle the story very well, and the director and the writer and all that, makes me really excited for it. And this rumor, even if, like, they don't all turn out to be true, gets me excited because I think at least one of them has to be true, and my gosh, are my fingers crossed that it's Kieran Culkin. So yeah, let me know what you think about the casting and who you like, who you don't like, who you think will do best in the role, and everything like that. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys for some official casting news hopefully soon. Bye!